Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Sistas and Law. My name is Judge T, and I'm here with my co-host,
Rosalyn Charles.
Today we're going to give you a little wrap-up of the week. I know a lot of you are aware of the Gorsuch nomination to our Supreme Court, along with the bombs that got dropped in Syria. But we want to begin off this month with the sexual violence against women. And we want to have a discussion because it's one of those topics that we often don't like to really engage in. But it is a reality, and it is something that affects a lot of women.
Well, before we get into all of those topics, I'd kind of like to tie all the topics that we happen to be talking about today with the theme that I think that pervades the 45th administration.
Yes.
And I think during the course in your life, you can kind of break down life and people and organizations to a couple of things.
Yeah.
Image and action. And when the image that is portrayed and the actions that don't follow, that's called hypocrisy.
We have a lot of hypocrisy going on in Washington right now, and I know you have a word for us today.
Well, there's the outrageous word, and then there's some, and I usually don't go there, but there's a little saying. It says, "I hate two-faced people," because it's so hard to decide which face to slap first.
Oh Lord, I'm glad I'm not a violent woman,
and I am not either. But we're going to talk about a number of things. But we've got outrage over the gassing of the Syrian people versus a ban on all refugees. We've got the 45th celebrating Sexual Assault Month, yet
31 pages on Wikipedia just dedicated to his sexual paralysis.
Yet he defends sexual offenders. We've got, it just goes on and on. We've got outrage over leaks by this administration, but this same administration leaks. Is that hypocrisy, ladies and gentlemen? Let's get
the hypocrisy is overwhelming. So let's just get down to the get down, because it's really one of the things that I try to explain to a lot of my friends and family, even before, so many people were concentrating on Hillary and concentrating on Bernie, and folks slid in the back door because folks did not, I think for me, the big picture was the pick for the Supreme Court.
Gorsuch.
And not that we knew it was Gorsuch, but we knew that if the Republicans had the opportunity to replace, now we did not know that there would be a death that would allow opening, but we do have some senior Supreme Court justices, so the likelihood of the 8 years there would be a selection. And we have someone in Gorsuch that is kind of right of Scalia. And what that means is that in the vote now, we have it's at 4-4.
Yeah.
Now we'll be at 5-4.
When we talk about 4-4, you talk about 4 very conservative as opposed to 4 very liberal.
Yes.
And at this particular point, now we've got 5 very conservative as opposed to now 4 very liberal. And
we would want to believe that as justices that the Constitution and law is read the same. But we know that is just an interpretation. Some believe that it's a moving document, and some people take it literally.
With Justice Kennedy, because he goes back and forth. But to his credit, he may be reading it more accurately on certain issues than any of his colleagues.
Well, with Gorsuch, it wasn't a loss so much for the Republicans or the Democrats, because replacing Scalia was already right. I think what is now that they've used what we call the filibuster that now led to the atomic option,
right?
And those I know you guys heard those terms.
That's the more fantastic story than the fact that we now have Gorsuch. Because essentially they have changed the rules of the Senate forever.
Forever, yes.
And what does that mean?
It comes to, only right now, when it comes to the selection of Supreme Court justices. But they do fear that with the House and the Senate well, the House of Representatives, which is the House and the Senate and the Congress
Right.
being mostly Republicans, that they fear that this ability to not have the majority
Well,
is
it
going
used to
to
be
spread over to-
2/3. It used
Yes.
to be you needed a 2/3 vote in order to move forward any kind of Supreme Court nominee.
Exactly.
Now you just need a majority.
Yes, 51.
And with that, we now have a majority Republicans.
Conservative.
And essentially, they're going to get whatever they want with respect to Supreme Court nominees. And as you indicated, the fear now is that that may trickle down into all appointments, and who knows.
And that's from the federal judges, who is where the most of the Supreme Court judges are picked
Right.
from.
But recognize that some years back during the Obama administration, the Republicans had been filibustering all of Obama's federal appointees.
Yes.
And after many, many, many years, they invoked the nuclear option to move the agenda forward. Now, we've got a filibuster, I guess it was going on for a few weeks, and the Republicans just got right down to it. And
Well,
changed the
they
rules of
said that they
of
were
the
going
Senate.
to use it, and they did. They knew that they had a president who, as far as he was concerned, if you can get on his side for anything, since he went bust with the band and with his change of anything to change the narrative, and that changed the narrative for Democrats. So they were no longer talking about the health care; they're talking about now that this filibuster came along. But we have just more than that that's going on, because we're talking about a president who, just by the mere thought that a friend of his from Fox, Bill O'Reilly, was accused. Now, I'm not going to...
Well, let's just start out. This is Sexual Assault Month. This
Month,
is
yes.
Sexual Awareness Assault Month. And this was a month that has been around, or at least a celebration, April, has been around for a number of years. And by executive order, President Obama, again, affirmed the celebration. And Donald Trump, this month also, by executive order, affirmed the celebration.
You know, when you talk about hypocrisy, so when we first began this, now, there is nothing that President Obama did correct based on the 45th.
True.
Isn't it quite, overwhelmingly a hypocrite that he would only take the one thing that President Obama had under his administration, that he gave his executive order.
What's the image
and
here?
that's the recognition of violence, sexual violence against women.
Well, you know, what's the image here? We've got the 45th signing an executive order celebrating sexual awareness, the Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And just a short time ago, within the campaign itself, we became very aware of all of the alleged offenses that the 45th indeed may or may not have committed.
And you know what? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, everybody's innocent until proven otherwise. But it was quite...
The women were coming out the woodwork.
Oh, yes, they were. Well,
After they grabbed the...
Just take his own admission that
You know
if
the
you
quote.
have money and power, you can grab a woman's private part, and they're not even going to say anything about it.
Okay.
So we're not even, don't minimize this, because it's far from that.
Yes.
But we also have I can't after that to say president is like we also have a person that sits in the White House.
Yes.
That we know on 2 occasions, just since he's been running and now as the president, has come to the defense of Roger Ailes, who was actually pushed out of Fox. I don't know, remember when I was talking about the Fox in the hen house?
Yes.
Where there's a whole lot of hens getting,
In the Fox house.
I'm not even going to, there's a lot of cock-a-doodle-doo going on Fox.
Okay.
Roger Ailes,
Yes.
he had, I think, more than 20 allegations against him. They spent about $31 million, I think it
Now
was.
Bill O'Reilly, the most celebrated conservative talk show
And the
host,
highest paid on television.
yes, with multiple ads, has been accused.
Now,
Not
this
the
is-
first time, but multiple
Multiple times. Now, mind you, I can tell you, we can go back to all of the things that they had to say about Bill Cosby. And again, Bill Cosby has numerous women. But you did not hear the 45th talk about Bill Cosby.
No.
But when his
he didn't
friend...
have an opportunity to.
Oh, right. Oh, no, yes, he did. He had many opportunities
sure
if he
he
so
did.
chose.
No.
We know he hangs around with sexual offenders. I mean,
Or-
Tyson was one of the first African Americans to put his little face on television, okay, for
in
him. So
support of
it
Donald
seems
Trump,
like,
yes.
you know, Donald Trump surrounds himself with sexual offenders. Now,
Or
Bill
at least
O'Reilly...
or at least people who have no respect for women.
come on,
Or
Bill
shown
O'Reilly...
publicly that they have no respect for women.
We know right now he's accused. I'll even give him that.
He's been accused.
But without...
and settled these suits. Because they're not criminal offenses. These have been
Why
civil.
aren't they criminal? This is the point.
Well,
why aren't they
Well,
criminal?
let's just deal with what we. I hear you, but they're civil offenses within the workplace that he has, or during the course of trying to conduct some kind of business.
Well, we know
And he's
8
paid-
out of 10 women, as it has been noted in the National Sexual Violence Center, 8 out of 10 women will be offended at their workplace.
Really? Wow.
So there is, you know, it's not just that boogeyman in the back that we should be worried about. But let's get back to Bill O'Reilly and the 45th.
Yes, he's a good friend.
Well,
he didn't do anything.
the-
That's what Donald Trump said.
Now, you're talking about somebody who
I
has
don't
alternative
believe
facts. You had someone who has the inability almost on a daily basis to actually tell the truth about most things, but only he just hears, if he hears something, he doesn't have to have facts if they're his friend. In this particular case with Bill O'Reilly, he actually called the women liars,
Yes.
said that, and he said the same thing with Roger Ailes, that these women, they are only making these allegations after he has done so much
I
for
think
them.
there's so many important points that need to be made here, but one of them is, does a president need to even wade in on such a conversation?
It
Even
is
if you are a
so
sexual
inappropriate.
offender.
It is absolutely so inappropriate.
What national impact does Bill O'Reilly's dalliances at work have, or international impact do his dalliances at work have for the American people, other than to point out in some ridiculous manner, as well as some sick manner, that we are actually in sexual assault awareness
The fact that
month?
we're in Sexual Assault Awareness Month and the 45th, now he signed a executive order, but he hasn't said one word.
He can. He said he has no moral
this is what I'm
authority on
saying.
the
This
whole
is
subject.
this is you talk about just going through the motions so that you don't have anything to say about him.
Is that the action?
But the action that he has in sexual awareness violence, it would have been better for him to stay silent.
Or maybe you should have had
then to
Ivanka
come-
sign the executive
Well,
order.
you know, let's stop with the Ivanka in the White House as
Or
some
Jared could have
reason
signed the
of
executive
us
order.
to believe that he
Or
now
any of his
has
children.
Please.
They're right.
This is a man who his first wife, in her divorce papers, said that Donald abused her sexually, and you can't abuse your wife. For those who believe just because you're married to them or they're your significant
No
other.
means no.
No means no, and there is 1 out of every 10 is an intimate partner. Also,
One
out of every 10 women offenders are abused by their own partner or their boyfriend or their husband.
Or someone that they know.
Someone that they know. And by the 45th basically saying that these women are liars, it's an entire different audience that he is talking to. He is now tainting an entire pool of possible jurors.
Are you suggesting that what the 45th words have power?
Well, when the 45th said that President Obama is not a citizen, that President Obama is a Muslim, there's people still to this day, just because he said it, they believe it.
He wasn't
The
president
words,
at the time.
it does not matter. The words of the president matter.
Because most people believe that your president would not lie. to you?
The fact that he has,
We know the truth.
he lies on so many different occasions. It's just it's painful to be a woman in this country right now, because we have someone in our White House who is supposed to be the leader of the free world. We're talking about a man who he spends so much time talking about Muslims and Sharia law and how they don't protect their women. He doesn't protect women. Women right here in the United States, women who we live with, who are our neighbors, who are our daughters, his actions
do not meet up with his words.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Let's talk about briefly, because you know what? The news cycle has been overtaken by the bombings in Syria.
Yes.
And I'm trying to figure out what the point happened to be. And I am in no way trying to minimize the offenses of Assad by gassing his own people. But we have to recall that some years back, in greater numbers than were outlined just last week, Assad gassed his own people. And President Obama went to Congress for the purpose of doing exactly what Donald Trump did without congressional authority.
And this is the thing that kind of perturbed me, because one, out of all the Republicans, I do look at the sane ones, and normally McCain is sane, but he kind of lashed out at about President Obama not doing something to Syria,
but without the additional
the difference between President Obama and the 45th is that President Obama went to Congress to ask Congress first, and they voted that he should not make a move. So it wasn't
a majority Republican Congress.
He did not make a lateral move without consulting, which is what the 45th did.
Let's give it to the 45th that he decided he wanted to act, and he knew he may or may not have received congressional approval, so he just acted without it. He just illegal. No rule of law, I'm just going to do it.
Well, not only that, he has no plan. He has bombed a country that was not, I mean, and mind you, if you watched it on television, it was absolutely horrific. It was something that no one should ever see. You saw a man holding his two children.
The gassing.
He actually lost his wife, his older children, and 21 people in his family.
But again, the outrage does not match the action, because yes, he slapped Assad by engaging in this bombing, but yet he won't let the refugees come to this country.
Well, see, and that goes back to where we started out.
How much does he truly care? He was so moved by those horrific pictures that were strewn all over the media, but not moved enough to allow those people to come to this country. Action.
The 45th actions are they
do not equal.
And so we could talk for the rest of our time.
No, I don't want to digress too much, but you know who he warned before, meaning the 45th, before he set those bombs off?
Oh yes, he called his boy Putin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't you think Putin then called Assad?
Now he called Putin, but he didn't tell Congress. Now he's going to tell the Russians before he tells the Americans that I'm about to bomb your boy.
Yeah, he called his friend Putin, but he didn't tell the people that he works for.
Now
that's interesting.
The hypocrisy is overwhelming. It is. I mean, there's so much that we could recap. But that hypocrisy, since sorry, you that was one of our words. You don't know which side you want to slap them on.
Yeah,
both sides.
At the same time.
Both sides. I mean that because that's what he's doing to us.
Yes.
He's slapping us on both sides. But I want to get back because everybody know because I've been bragging about it all for the last month. My daughter's about to go to college, and what I was in our research, as I said, I took most of the statistics from the Natural Sexual Violence Resource Center, and so these are just not numbers off of the top of my head. 1 in every 5 women will be assaulted in college,
Oh my goodness.
but 90% of them will not report it.
And I think that's the bigger question. Why don't they report it? Because of and I'll say it's because of the environment that is out there. We don't talk about sexual assault. Sexual offenders and sexual harassers justify their behavior, and we have a president and many other. It's not just Donald Trump. It's most offenders.
That's my fear.
Including, we've got somebody sitting on the Supreme Court now, Justice Thomas, who
was
that's
you know what?
when we started talking about all of this.
It is very
With
ironic
with Anita Hill.
that the only black Supreme Court justice, male, is someone who was charged with sexual assault.
The accusation.
The accusation of sexual assault.
That same victim, Anita
Hill,
did not report it. She was dragged.
In it. But you know what? And this is where women. I want you to understand that sometimes you victimize other women, because one of the things that a lot of women would not vote for Hillary or did not want to vote for Hillary because they actually made Hillary wear that scarlet letter for Bill.
Yes.
Women. It was women that I talked to that said that they didn't like the way she treated the victims. Well, she was a victim too because she was his wife. And what did we do? We blamed her for things that Bill did. There's many things that we can put on. I'm not saying that is the only thing, but that is one of the things that I found was very, very disturbing.
Well, let's be for real. Women are very hard on other women, and they have a tendency to excuse the behavior of men. Why that is the case, I don't know what the underlying psychological affliction happens to be, but we're very hard on women.
You know what Melania said when the tape came out with the 45th talking about grabbing women by their vaginas, that Billy Bush prodded him into saying that. Now,
again,
Billy Bush,
no
seriously?
fault, no personal responsibility. Seemingly, men
but
don't have to take
I did not hear
for their
one
action
woman,
because we have a woman who's going to justify it on some level.
And it is probably one of the things as a woman.
Yes.
Having been a victim as a child, it's not something that's very easy to talk about. But you know what? I've come to a place where I learned that it wasn't my fault. I remember, though, not telling my mother until I was in my 20s. And my mother cried more probably because, one, she felt that why couldn't I tell her?
Right.
And two, that she felt that she should have known. As a mother, you want to think that you know, and that's why I tell for you mothers, and that's why I am at a place in my life that I can talk about it. Not that I'm any better than anyone else, because I may not have been able to have this conversation back when I was in my 20s.
You may not have been able to have that conversation 5 years ago.
But you know what? As a mother who is about to send off their daughter and having that conversation, I needed to speak to her in a way, not to make up a story, but to give her the facts. For me, I wish I could tell her a story about someone else.
What it is that we hope, ultimately, is that all mothers, all fathers, can create an environment within their home where their children can feel comfortable discussing those uncomfortable topics. And we in this country, we do not make it easy for victims of sexual assault to come forward. They do indeed come forward.
But when you have a president from the highest office in the country to already demean women before there's even one person is put on the stand, before any facts have actually been gathered, to automatically take sides.
Because we know how he feels about the issue. He does not believe that it is possible, in my opinion, for a man
merely because
to
it's
harass.
his friend. Because it's his friend.
I bet you he doesn't think any guy truly commits a sexual offense.
Oh,
and we've got a Rush Limbaugh who says,
oh, you know
what did he say? That no really means yes. You just need to know how to point out the ones that truly mean when they say no, it means yes.
Let me tell you something. Rush Limbaugh sits his, and I'm not going to talk about overweight people because, you know, I was overweight at one point in my life, but I could tell you he needs to get up and run around a little bit. And instead of sitting his big behind back behind that mic and having nothing but vileness to say out of his mouth, supporting men without facts with regards to women who...
I mean, ultimately, we have to say, were you in the room with them?
He says, but he says, no doesn't always mean no.
Did Fox pay out $13 million for nothing?
Well, this is what I'm talking about. He spews this out all day. Rush Limbaugh is one of the highest paid radio personalities. I don't know if you call it a personality or if you just call it...
They're entertainers.
Entertainer.
Yes.
In the country. And there are many, many, many people who listen to Rush Limbaugh all day long. You go into doctors' offices, you go into hospitals, and it's either Fox or Rush Limbaugh in these very conservative places. So if you're sitting down and this is what you listen to every day, it's like the fake news that was put out during the presidential election. It doesn't have to be true, but if you put it out, you put it out enough. If this president, oh God, I'm telling you, it just brings up something that makes me want to throw up every time I even say it. But if this man that sits in the White House says it long enough that these women, with regards to Bill O'Reilly, are lying,
and it's not
he's
just
spoiling the pool of people for justice.
It's not just what it's said, then it becomes written. And when people read things, they have a tendency to believe them because it is written. People don't do a whole lot of further reading. They read one side of an argument and see no other aspect of that argument.
See, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we are trying to, there's, you know, with the 45th, this person keeps us at, you know, there's so many deflections that come on. You know, his band got deflected, his walls get deflected.
Do you think that he bombed Syria to bring up his poll numbers?
Well, he needed to do something because he was only at 35% last week, and all of a sudden he's getting a little bump. See, I don't know what people love about violence, but you know,
it's the firepower. It's the ultimate phallic symbol. You saw those tomahawks.
You know what? And we're talking about how much did we spend on President Obama in his 8 years?
I understand. You mean in terms
of
travel?
Yes,
$97 million in all of his trips.
$97 million for 8 years.
Yeah,
$97 million. We're paying $146 million a day for Miss Trump in New York.
Is it $1,146,000?
No. Million.
Okay.
And $60 million at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, he's golfing every weekend.
But this man is making decisions again where there's it's something about every time a foreign dignitary comes to Mar-a-Lago, he makes major decisions.
Well, let's get back to his poll numbers, because if you recall, way back in the day when President Obama started out doing certain military offenses, he accused Obama of bombing to raise his poll numbers and to distract.
Well, the distractor in chief.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying that we should not have reacted, but I'm not quite sure, and we're going to be able to find more out about this. I'm not quite sure that he legally had the free hand to make that decision without coming to Congress.
Well, let's just assume that he did, just for the sake of this argument.
Oh, that's so we can stop talking about the leaks.
Let's just assume that he did have the authority to do what he did in terms of bombing. What did it accomplish? did it stop? Is it going to stop Assad from continuing to gas his people? Is it going to stop Assad from continuing to bomb and to destroy his people? This is a 6-year civil war. 500,000 people they claim have been victims of Assad.
The person that we gave the job of making sure he didn't do that was Putin. Now, Tillerson is about to go over to Moscow and actually have a conversation with Putin. So we're going to see again what the reaction is, and again what he was able to do.
Speaking of Moscow, with all of this, we're not talking about the Russian investigation, are we?
Changing the narrative.
The subject. We've got Nunes, who resigned from the ethics, actually has ethics charges against him at this point, but now he's resigned as head of the
Intelligence Committee.
So again, we're not talking about what could be deemed
and again, without facts, just like he has no facts with Bill O'Reilly, he accuses Susan Rice of committing an offense. Again, ladies and gentlemen, there's so much we're wrapping.
She wasn't committing any kind of offense. From what I understand, those people who understand how government works, and those people understand Susan Rice's position at the time, she was doing her job.
Remember when we were, I think maybe 4 or 5 shows ago, when we were telling you about FISA court? Again, it's Susan Rice, who was in the same position that he gave to Flynn.
Yes.
And Flynn had to give it up because he lied. Now just think, you don't do any checking. He said he was going to do for the foreigners, he was going to have
vet them?
He was going to have the what's that super vetting he was going to do?
Well, he doesn't vet his
he
own.
Didn't vet his own folks.
Administration, yeah.
Now he claims that he put what's Darth Vader in charge of overseeing Flynn.
Darth Vader's out.
But
that would be Bannon. Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon, yes.
Yes.
Darth Vader was basically, he said he was put in position to oversee your head of a security. That if that was the reason, you didn't know that he was lying back then. Did you? No, did he? Did he?
Bannon was put there to oversee the head of NSA, and he was also put there to de-operationalize the operation. That's what was, and his job is over now. So we have now moved him into a different position. At least that's what the White House has put. I don't even know what de-operationalize means, and I don't know in this context, nor do I know what operationalize means in this context. But Bannon is finished, and he's moved on.
No, he's not completely moved on yet. I know him and Jared are going. You know what? It's funny because to give you news, we watch a lot of news, we read a lot of news, and I don't want to rep one station over the other, but
we have one viewer out there saying that he's still very close to the 45th. He
exactly.
Said the move
See,
was a
they're
distraction
jockeying
as well.
He's jockeying with the son-in-law.
Which face should we slap again?
I want to know. I mean,
need to slap some
first of all, we got
situation.
the 45th who's never had a government job. Neither has his son-in-law Jared have a government job.
He's 36.
But
he's very ambitious.
I want you to hear this, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to write this. I want you to write this in your books right now. This has come from Judge T. What the 45th is doing is setting up his son-in-law to run for president. This boy, and I call him a boy because he's 36?
Well, yeah.
He's a boy. This young man, he's a father, he's a husband, yes, but he's a young boy to me. Okay, I'm old enough to be his mother. So, with that being said, this young boy is being set up from someone who has no political background.
Jared's a Democrat.
Jared, let Bannon say it, he is a Democrat. But Jared is now given the opportunity to travel all around the world, talk to dignitaries. He's getting more mileage than Tillerson. And he will have had the opportunity to talk about, I mean, this man is given he's supposed to stop the war in the Middle East. He's supposed to take on all crime in America.
Yes.
I mean, How many hats can somebody who's never done anything but real estate do?
And there are questionable issues with his real estate empire.
Well, we won't get to the
that he is now
$500
trying
million
to
property that he's trying to sell in New York to China.
Or refinance or something with.
But you know, again, this
the
White
webs
House
that
and
have been
the
webs that will unravel.
it's a little bit much. Now you have Ivanka. Not even the president's wife. I mean,
Hey,
I'm not going to
give it to Melania. She wants no parts of this.
You know what? I'm not even mad at Melania.
No, I'm not mad at her. She's
Melania's
going to stay in New York
but you know what?
and raise my
she
son.
has at least enough dignity, even if the rest of America doesn't have it. Melania has enough dignity to say, I am not putting my son or myself in the middle of the 45th bullcrap. She says, you know what? As for me and my son, we're staying at the tower. Y'all can go to Washington and do all the foolishness y'all want to do. And we know that if Donald loves anybody, he loves his daughter Ivanka. She's been sitting on his lap since she was a baby.
Stop.
She was still sitting on his lap as a teenager.
Stop.
He even said that if she wasn't my daughter, I'd probably marry her. If I'm lying and flying, you know what I'm talking about.
This is
This
Sexual
man-
Assault Awareness Month.
Yes,
ladies and gentlemen.
and he has
Stop.
it in his veins.
Stop.
In his veins.
It's about time. I think our time together has pretty much come to a conclusion. We've railed about a number of things, particularly
Gorsuch, we wanted to take care of the Syria bombing, but more importantly, we do not want to end minimalizing Sexual Awareness Month. We want you to talk to your daughters, talk to your sons, because boys are actually sexually assaulted too, but more women will be sexually assaulted today, right now, than those that you will ever have a conversation with.
We wanted to talk about these things because the narrative has once again been changed with this bombing. So some of the things that are quite important: Sexual Assault Awareness Month, the Russian investigations. The mainstream media is not talking about them at all because they're too busy looking at the lights in the sky that took place a few days ago and those bombs that hit it. And you know that the American people are fascinated with bombings and lights and fireworks. But again,
yes,
to
we
what
may have changed the subject. He may
Briefly.
have only signed an executive order for the appearance, but you, our viewers, this conversation cannot end on the ability of whether the 45th is going to make it a sexy topic, because nothing sexy about sexual assault. There's nothing that we should do, but we still need to have the conversation. You know, again, we have our Twitter, our Facebook Live every Sunday at 3. Our shows on Wednesday, our tape shows will be stopping on Wednesday after next week, and we're going to be going maybe a little bit long, more about 45 minutes on Sunday, so that we can continue to have our conversation, because there's so much that's fluid.
But our tape shows will come back.
We'll come back
sometime in the summer.
Yes.
Yes, because new tape shows, aren't they still present on our YouTube?
They will still be there.
Present.
Yes. So make
You
sure
haven't seen all of them.
You hit us up on YouTube, Facebook Live. Our email is sistersinlaw@gmail.com. Our website is www.sistersinlaw.com.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Sistas Law.
Make sure you subscribe. That is very, very important. Again, Judge T, we thank you with my co-host,
Rosalyn Charles. Looking forward to your comments.
with
Take care.
Sistas and Law.
Take care.